Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Deep Dive. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave us a comment down below.
Definitely.
We love hearing from you guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
So today we're diving into something,
Interesting.
yeah,
Very interesting.
really interesting. The quiet in the room, so to speak, from some major Republican figures
Yeah.
as we head into this election.
Big time.
Specifically, the silence coming from former President George W. Bush.
Mm-hmm.
And what makes this deep dive so interesting is that we're going beyond, the typical political analysis.
Right.
We're going to examine this through the lens of a recent article
Okay.
that digs into the Bush family dynamics, particularly the legacy of Barbara Bush.
Fascinating stuff, I think.
Yeah, and I think this is going to be a really interesting way to kind of look at this.
I think so, too. It's a unique approach, and it's important because when we're talking about the Bush family, silence can speak volumes.
Yeah, okay, so let's unpack this. Barbara Bush, as many of you know,
Uh-huh.
was incredibly outspoken.
Oh, yeah.
And she was very publicly not on board the Trump train.
Not at all. No.
She even said that she didn't consider herself a Republican anymore because of him.
I remember that very, very strongly. And, her disapproval
Yeah.
wasn't just talk. There was widespread belief that Trump wasn't welcome at her funeral in 2018.
Wow.
Think about that all the living presidents were there except Trump.
Oh, wow.
Only Melania attended.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, it really highlights the depth of her feelings and makes you wonder where the family stands today.
Right. And yet, despite his mother's strong stance, George W. Bush has officially stated he's retired from presidential politics and won't be endorsing any candidates.
Right, and what's fascinating is that, the silence stands in contrast to some of his past actions and comments.
Oh, totally.
Which makes it even more noteworthy.
Like that comment he reportedly made about Trump's inauguration speech?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That was some weird stuff.
We have this history of him being more outspoken, which makes his current silence so intriguing. It begs the question.
Totally.
What's behind this change? Is he trying to avoid rocking the boat?
Yeah.
Is there more at play here?
It's like we're watching a political chess match unfold in real time.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's not just George W. Bush who's making waves, or rather, the lack thereof.
Right.
We've got other Bush family members taking very public stances. His daughter, Barbara, has actually come out and endorsed Kamala Harris.
Yeah, you have to wonder what Thanksgiving dinner is going to be like in Crawford, Texas, right?
Oh, my God.
This isn't just a theoretical political debate. It's playing out within a family, and that human element, I think, is what makes it relatable for all of us, regardless of our own political leanings.
Totally. It's a reminder that politics is personal, and those personal relationships often clash with party loyalty.
Absolutely.
And speaking of loyalty,
Yeah.
it's not just Barbara speaking out.
Yeah.
Dick Cheney and Liz Cheney have both endorsed Harris as well.
Wow.
That puts George W. Bush in an even more isolated position within his own party.
Yeah, and to understand the full weight of that, we need to consider the history between Bush and Dick Cheney. Remember the Scooter Libby pardon controversy?
Oh, yeah.
Bush refused to pardon Libby, which created a real rift between them. Years later, Trump pardoned Libby.
Wow.
It shows us just how complex and layered political relationships can be.
It's a reminder that there's often a lot more going on behind the scenes than we see on the surface. And speaking of complicated relationships,
Yes.
let's not forget Jeb Bush's bruising encounter with Trump in the 2016 primaries.
Oh, man. Trump really went after Jeb on the debate stage, mocking him relentlessly. It was almost painful to watch.
Low energy Jeb. That one still stings, doesn't it?
Oh, it's brutal. And to add insult to injury, Trump even mocked Jeb for bringing his mother, Barbara Bush, onto the campaign trail.
Oh, God.
It really highlights the personal nature of those attacks and how deeply the Bush family is entangled with Trump's rise to power.
So we have all these layers: family drama,
Yeah.
political history, personal vendettas. It makes George W. Bush's silence that much more fascinating to analyze.
Absolutely. And what makes it even more intriguing is that this pattern of silence extends beyond the immediate Bush circle. Condoleezza Rice and James Baker, major figures from the George W. Bush administration, have also chosen to remain silent. They're not just staying quiet about the election, they're largely absent from the public political discourse altogether.
Which is really surprising considering their experience and influence. Rice, with her foreign policy background, could offer valuable insights into the global implications of current events. Baker, a master negotiator, could be a voice of reason in these increasingly divisive times.
Exactly. So the question becomes, what's driving their silence? Are they witnessing a Republican Party that they no longer recognize or support?
It's a question that leads us to a much larger point. What does all this silence tell us about the state of the Republican Party as a whole? Is it a party in crisis struggling to find its identity in the wake of the Trump era?
Or is this simply a period of transition, a regrouping before a new generation of Republican leaders emerges?
Those are some pretty big questions. And
Yeah.
while we don't have all the answers, I think we've uncovered some pretty interesting pieces of the puzzle so far.
Definitely. And I think what makes this so compelling is that it goes beyond typical political analysis. We're looking at family dynamics, personal histories, and the evolution of political legacies. It's a reminder that politics is never just about policy. It's about people power and the choices they make.
It's a deep dive indeed.
And we're just getting started. Now, before we wrap up this deep dive, we need to touch on another interesting angle to all of this Jeb Bush's experience with Trump.
Yeah, Jeb's 2016 presidential run was practically derailed by Trump's attacks. I mean, who can forget low-energy Jeb?
Oh, totally. Trump was relentless. It was a masterclass in political bullying. He even mocked Jeb for bringing his mother on the campaign trail.
Oh, it was brutal. You have to wonder if that experience is playing a role in George W. Bush's decision to stay silent this time around.
It's certainly possible. Maybe he's trying to protect his family from further attacks, or perhaps he just wants to avoid being drawn into that kind of negativity.
Yeah, it adds yet another layer to this already intricate situation. But, this pattern of silence extends beyond the immediate Bush family. Condoleezza Rice and James Baker, both incredibly influential figures in George W. Bush's administration, have also been noticeably quiet.
That's a really important point. These aren't just any Republicans. We're talking about heavy hitters, people who commanded respect on the national and international stage. Their absence from the conversation is deafening.
Rice was the first female national security advisor, and the first female African-American Secretary of State, James Baker, served as Secretary of State and White House Chief of Staff. These are people with serious political clout and a deep understanding of how the system works.
Exactly. And their silence is even more striking given their areas of expertise. Rice, with her foreign policy background, could offer invaluable insights on the current state of global affairs. Baker, known for his ability to bridge divides, could be a voice of reason in our increasingly polarized political landscape.
And yet, they're choosing to stay on the sidelines.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, what are they seeing that's causing them to hold back? Are they witnessing a Republican Party that they no longer recognize or align with?
It's a question worth considering. And it brings us back to that central question we've been exploring. What does this wave of silence tell us about the overall state of the Republican Party? Is this a party in crisis, struggling to redefine itself in a post-Trump world?
Or is this just a period of transition, a time of reflection before a new generation of Republican leaders steps forward?
These are big, complex questions, and there are no simple answers. But by examining the silence of these prominent Republicans, we can start to piece together a more nuanced understanding of the dynamics within the party and what that might mean for the future of American politics.
It's a reminder that politics is never just about policy. It's about people power and the choices they make, even when those choices involve staying silent.
Sometimes what isn't said speaks louder than words.
Well said. So as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with one final thought to ponder. Does the silence of these prominent Republicans point to a fundamental shift within the party, a move away from traditional conservatism?
Interesting.
Or are there other forces at play here? Personal loyalties, strategic calculations, a fear of reprisal? What do you think?
It's a really good question.
Yeah, what resonates with you most from this conversation?
I think what's so fascinating about this whole situation is that it really highlights the human side of politics. We often get caught up in the policy debates and the horse race aspect of elections.
Right.
But at the end of the day, politics is about people. It's about relationships. It's about values. And I think this deep dive into the Bush family and their silence really underscores that.
Absolutely. And, it's a reminder that we all have a role to play in shaping the political landscape, whether we choose to speak out or remain silent. Our actions and our inactions have consequences.
I think that's a really powerful takeaway.
Yeah. And, ultimately it's up to each of us to decide how we want to engage in the political process. But I think it's important to be mindful of the fact that silence can be just as powerful as a voice.
Absolutely.
Well, we hope you found this deep dive insightful. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more deep dives.
Yes, please do.
And let us know your thoughts in the comments below.
Yeah, we love hearing from you.
We do. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.
See you next time.